you are welcome to this video. In this video I'm going to be continuing the bearing and distance calculation, but this time more of the theory aspect. Okay, so we start with the first one. It says a town J is 20 kilometers from a lorry station K on a bearing of 65 degrees. Okay, so from, I always use the from to know where to draw my bearing. And so when you say from K, that means you're starting with K and the bearing is 65 degrees. 65 degrees is an angle between 0 and 90 degrees, so it means that 65 degrees is here. Bearing always starts from the north, so from the north to this point is 65 degrees. If you are yet to watch my video on bearing, you can go ahead and do that. And the distance based on the question here is 20 kilometers. Okay, now the next one says another town, okay, on a bearing of this, another town T is 8 centimeters from K, the same K, but now on the bearing of 115. So bearing of 115 is this way, because from the north 115 is here, is between 90 and 180 degrees, so 115 degrees. Remember, you always start from the north. From the north to here is 90, then 115 is somewhere here. So I'm going to draw this, and please note I'm not going to draw this to be as long as the other one because it is just 8 kilometers. How you draw can affect your final answer. So it's just 8 kilometers. This is 20, so it should be longer, right? So now you now have okay, on a bearing of 115, we've done that already, and it now says calculate I to the nearest kilometers, the distance of T from J. Okay, this is J town and this is T town, right? So we're asked to find the distance, so we must draw a straight line from T to J this way. Don't mind my drawing. Okay, now first of all, this 115, let me clean up this 90 degrees here. So I clean this up to have space. So since from here to here is 115, okay, I mean from here down here is 115, and here is 65. I can get this remaining angle here. What I mean by this remaining angle is from here to here this way, right? Okay, so if everything is 115 and here to here is 65, 115 minus 65 will make here 90 degrees. 155 minus 65 is 90 degrees. So the angle here is 90 degrees. And I think that makes the job easy for us. It makes the job easy for us because 90 degrees, any triangle that ends up giving us 90 degrees becomes very easy to deal with. You can use SOHCAHTOA, right? And so the first question says we should find to the nearest kilometer the distance T from J. This is X. It should be easy to find X in this case. Since this is 90 degrees, that's right angle triangle, I can use simply Pythagoras theorem to find X. I can just say X squared is equal to 8 squared plus 20 squared. You can put in brackets Pythagoras theorem, right? Pythagoras theorem. Okay, so this will now be 64 plus this is 400, and this will be 464. So X squared is 464. So that means that X is going to be square root of 464. Let me use my calculator to find that. So give me a second. I'm trying to find my calculator. So you can see that bearing and distance is quite easy and requires you to have a very good knowledge of calculations. So square root of 464 is 21.54. So I'm going to say 21.54 kilometers. But if you notice, the question says to the nearest kilometer, that means to a whole number. So that means the answer is going to be 22 as a whole number, right? So that's the answer to that question. Now the next question now says, to the nearest degree, the bearing of t from j. Okay, so this is j. I can draw this line so that you know there's an angle. The bearing of t from j means from the north of j to the line joining t and j. From the north of j to the line joining t and j, right? That's it. Now remember that this is supposed to be a straight line. The north down here is supposed to be a straight line. That makes it 180 degrees. Okay, and for us to find this other one, this angle is what will be remaining, this tiny angle here, and we can find the tiny angle by knowing what this is. So let's see if there is a possibility we can find here, or we can find here. Anyone you choose. You can choose to find from here to here, or you can choose to find from here to here. Okay, so let's find this angle. Possibly this is going to help us, I guess so. Let's be sure. Okay, this is giving us this, and this is giving us that. Okay, let's go ahead and know what these other angles are. I would have loved to start by finding this one here. So to find this angle, since this is a right angle, we can use SOHCAHTOA. Now SOHCAHTOA is what we use to solve right angle triangle trigonometric ratios. So if this is SOHCAHTOA, I can say my 20 is facing this angle, right? That is opposite. 8 is adjacent. So I'm going to use tan. So I'm going to say 20 over 8 is equal to tan whatever this angle is. Let me call it theta. Okay, so that means theta is going to be equal to the tangent inverse of 20 over 8. You can also divide 20 over 8. Okay, so second function tan of 20 over 8, and that's giving us 68.19. So this is 68.19 degrees, right? So I'm going to write here as 68.19. Now if here is 68.19, it means that here is going to be to subtract from 90. 90, since it's a right angle triangle, I will just subtract this from 90 to get here. So 90 minus 68.19 is going to give us 21.8. So this angle here is 21.8. You can see that's very interesting. Okay, so if this is 21.8, it becomes very easy for us to know what this angle is, because if here is 65, it means that here is also 65. You see, that's the whole of this is supposed to be 65 because of alternate angles. I wish I drew this correctly. Let me draw this diagram again so as not to confuse you. So I didn't stay well earlier. So let's say this is K, and from K you went to this T on a bearing of 65 degrees. So let me call here 65 degrees. Remember, if here is 65, here is also 65. Okay, but that's by the way. Then also there's another one, 115 to T, and I told you don't make sure you don't draw it to be too long, because 8 kilometers cannot be as long as 20 kilometers. Okay, then we join. Okay, so that makes it easy. We join like this with a straight line. My line is not very straight, but aha, so this gives us a better picture so you don't get confused. Yes, so remember we already calculated this to be 90 degrees, and this angle here is already 68.19 degrees and makes here 21.8. Okay, 21.8. Now, but don't forget that this angle being 65 degrees will always be adjacent to this angle here, you know. we call them alternate angles, sorry. Whenever you have two parallel lines like this, and the two lines are joined this way, the angle here must be equal to the angle here, you know. It's always the same. So that's the same thing we have here. So if here is 65, it means that everything here is 65. That means the rest here, the rest of this angle here, this one, let me mark it, is going to be 65 minus 21.8. So let me do that quickly. 65 minus 21.8, and that is giving us 43.2. So this angle is 43.2. Now the reason I'm looking for this angle is because we are asked to find the bearing of t from J. Now J is going to come from the north of J until you get to the line joining both T and J. So this is the line joining T and J. So you must get to that line. So from here to here, this is a straight line. That makes it 180. So that means that bearing of T from J is going to be equal to, you have 180, then plus this remaining one here, which we got by subtracting this from 65, which is 43.2. So we are going to have 180 minus 43.2. Okay, that is going to give us 136.8. So this is 136.8 degrees, which is approximately, to the nearest degree is 137 degrees. So that is the answer to that question. This is exactly how to go about bearing question. Okay, I'm going to, of course, we are going to be seeing much more. So make sure you follow through. Now the next one says that y is 60 kilometers away from x on a bearing of 135 degrees. You see, from x, this gives you a clue of where to draw your diagram, where to start from. So from x means I'm definitely going to start from x. And a bearing of 135, from here to here is 90, so 135 is somewhere here. So I'm going to draw this. And the distance here is 60 kilometers, so I'm going to write 60 kilometers. Now this bearing of 135 means from the north to this point is 135. There are a lot of clue we can draw from this. You can even say, since this is a straight line, that this now, the remaining part will be 180 minus 135, and that is going to give us 45, I guess. Yeah, 45 degrees, you know, depending on how it suits you, but don't forget your coordinates. So this is y. Now the next one now says z is 80 kilometers away from x on a bearing of 225. You see, that's another long thing. On a bearing of 225. So 225 of x, 225 means the angle is between 180 and 360. So that means 225 should be somewhere here. And the distance is 80 kilometers, meaning that it should be longer than 60 kilometers. So this is what it's going to be. So this one is going to go like this. 225 is between 180 and 270. So you're going to have some, and it should be longer. So longer because 80 kilometers is definitely much bigger than 60 kilometers. And 225, if you measure, remember everything here is 80, and it needs to be from the north to this line joining the two of them. This is Z. So since here is 180, 225 minus 180 is giving us 45. That means this angle, this remaining angle, is also 45 degrees. Can you see that? Yeah, 45 degrees. Let me rewrite this. So I'm going to now make here to be x, and now here is now 45, making it 225. So this already giving us a triangle. I can join this guy straight to this guy, something like this. You know, I will advise you use ruler. So the question now says find the distance z from y and the bearing of z from y. Okay, quite easy. Now the next is to find the distance z from y. Now this is also as easy as the first one we did. Let me call this distance a. Now the reason why I said it's easy is because 45 plus 45 is also right angle. So since this is a right angle triangle, I can just simply use Pythagoras theorem, you know. And so I can say a squared is equal to 80 squared plus 60 squared, and that is 6,400 plus 3,600, and that is 10,000. So if a squared is 10,000, that means a is going to be square root of 10,000, and square root of 10,000 is simply 100. So this is 100 kilometers. So the distance here is 100 kilometers. You see, quite easy, right? Okay, so the next now says the bearing of z from y. So let's see the bearing of z. This is z from y. From y means from the north of y. Remember, from the north, I'm going to draw my angle from the north. I've not gotten to the line, but this is 180 already, so I need to get here. So this would do the job for me. So if I know here, then it is easy. And like I said, there are many ways we can use to achieve this. Maybe I can find this angle. Already, here is 45. If here is 45, because this is a line joining the two of them, if here is 45 touching this, it means that here is also 45. Okay, 45 degrees. So it becomes easy to find this. But let's find this angle first. Let me call this angle theta. 80 is opposite to theta, and 60 is adjacent to theta. Let me write the 60 kilometer here. Okay, 60 is adjacent. Permit me to clean this. Okay, so 60 is adjacent to theta. So I'm going to say that tan theta is going to be equal to 80, which is opposite, over 60, which is adjacent. And that's going to give us, this is 4 over 3, or you can simply say 1.33. So now theta is going to be equal to tan inverse of 1.333. So let me use my calculator to do that. Shift tan of 1.333, and that is 53.12. So this is going to be equal to 53.12 degrees. So here is 53.12 degrees. Now the question is, why am I doing all of this? If you notice, all these angles now, both the bearing, this is the bearing, okay, 45, and this, all of them makes up angle in a circle, which is 360. So I'm going to say here that the bearing of z from y is, the bearing of z from y now is going to be 360. I'll start by 360 minus, I can subtract 53.12 and also subtract 45, you know. So you have to find a way to manipulate the angles, but make sure whatever you're doing is correct. Okay, remember this is the bearing. Okay, then you have 53.12, you have 45, and that's what we have here. So I'm going to calculate this. 360 minus 53.12, then minus 45. That is giving me 261.88. So this is 261.88, okay, degrees. Let's see if there is any instruction. It says, okay, they didn't say to the nearest degree, so I'll leave it in 2 decimal place or 1 decimal place. You can just simply say 261.9 degrees to 1 decimal place. Okay, that is quite easy. So let's see the next one. This one now has to do with distance, does not have anything to do with bearing, but we can quickly answer this. It says towns P and Y are X centimeter apart. 2 motorists set out at a temperature. This should be a number 3 question. 2 motorists set out at the same time from P to Q at steady speeds of 60 km per hour and 80 km per hour. The fastest motorist got to Q 30 minutes earlier than the other. So find the value of Q. Okay, I like to say this. First of all, the reason I'm solving this question here is because sometimes bearing and distance question, they can start by giving you velocity. Okay, but you should know how to convert velocity to distance. You should know that distance, okay, that's why it's called bearing and distance. Distance is also equal to velocity times time. So whenever you are given distance, whenever you are given velocity, you can convert it to distance by multiplying velocity with time. Okay, so going back to the questions, the two towns X and Y, the distance between the two towns are S kilometer. That's the distance. Two motorists set out at the same time from P to Q at steady speeds of this. So the two motorists, the speed of the first motorist is 60 km per hour. The speed of the second motorist is 80 km per hour. Speed, I'm using V to represent speed. The faster motorist got to Q 30 minutes earlier. So that means this one is the faster. If this guy now, if the time this one takes to reach is T, it means that the time this one takes to reach is 30 minus or 30 plus T, because it was faster. So V1 reached at time T, but V2 reached at time 30 minus T. I hope that makes sense, okay? And we are now asked to find the value of X. First of all, remember that it's the same distance both of them covered, the same distance. So and distance is velocity times time. So I'm going to say that the velocity v1 t1, which is the distance covered by this, is the same thing as the distance covered by the second cyclist. It's the same distance, okay? Just their velocity and their time changed. So this one here is 60, t1 is t, equal to your v2 is 80, your t2 is 30 plus t. If you open up the bracket, this is going to be 60t is going to be equal to 2400 plus 80t, right? I hope this makes sense. Okay, sorry, this is a mistake. Earlier means here should be minus. Okay, it got there earlier. So that means here should be minus, please. So here should be negative, okay? So that means 60t, if this crosses the equal sign, it's going to be 60t plus 80t equal to 2400. So 140t is equal to 2400. So the time is 2400 divided by 140. Let me do that with my calculator. 2400 divided by 140. The time is 17.14. So the time T is 17.14 hour. That's the time it took this guy to get there, the V1. So now the distance X can be any of them. It can be V1 T1 or it can be V2 T2. So let me use V1 T1. So that means 60T, and 60T means 60 times 17.14, and 60 times 17.14 is going to give us 1028.4. So this is now going to be 1028.4 kilometers. So that's the answer to that question. You can see that this is quite easy, right? Okay, so that leads us to the third one, which is a question on bearing and distance. This one says a cottage is on a bearing of 200 degree and 110 degree from Dogbe and Manu's farm respectively. Okay, from. So I have two bearings to count. And if Dogbe walked 5 kilometers and Manu walked 3 kilometers from the cottage to their farms, okay, calculate correct or two significant figure the distance between the two farms. Okay, first of all, the bearing of the cottage from this and this is this and this. So let me start with Dogbe. So Dogbe's bearing, Dogbe's bearing is 200. 200 is between 180 and 270, so it's going to be something like this. Okay, so and the distance based on what we have here, Dogbe's distance is 5 kilometers, so I'm going to write here to be 5 kilometers. Okay, let me clean this. We are not sure of where the other guy's own is. So Manu is 110. 110. The bearing from Manu is 110. So This is the cottage. Here we have the cottage, and here we have Dogbe, and we said it's 200. So from here to here is 200. 200 means here is 180. That means here will just be 20. Okay, so the cottage being on a bearing of 110 degrees from Manu, it should be somewhere here, because 110 is like this. Yeah, so it should be somewhere here. The reason is because 110 is somewhere here, so I'm going to draw this. This is quite somehow, right? And the bearing is 110. 110 means from the north to here is 110. So it means that the rest will be 180 minus 110. That means here is supposed to be 70. Can you see that? Makes sense, right? If here is 110, then I can now join these two. And this one does not have to be as long as this, so I can bring it, let me bring it a little closer, because it is 3 kilometers. So let me bring it here. So remember that the reason I'm putting Manu here is because 110 must be here. Okay, so I'm going to draw from here and straight. Good. And this is your straight line. So from the north to the line joining them is 110. That means the remaining part here should be 70. Okay, you should know all of these things, because angle of a straight line is 180. So now there should be a line joining from, this is Manu. So there should be a line joining from Manu to Dogbe like this. That makes it a triangle. Now there are a lot of things we can get here. This one here is 3 kilometers. Now I can get something here in the sense that if here is 70, because of alternate angle, it means that here will also be 70. And if here is 20, because of alternate angle, here will also be 20. That is giving us here to be 90 degrees. Again, 90 degrees. You can see that. So the first question says we should, to two significant figures, the distance between the two farms. So these are the two farms here. So let me write it X. Now this is 90 degrees. Again, we are applying right angle triangle. So this is going to be x squared equal to 3 squared plus 5 squared. And that would be 9 plus 5 squared is 25. That would be 34. So x is going to be equal to square root of 34. And the square root of 34, let me find that, is 5.83. So it's supposed to be 5.83, right? And 5.83 is the same thing as 5.8 to two significant figures. Since we want to find significant figures, that's very important. So the second question says the nearest degree, the bearing of Manu from Dogbe. Wow, okay, we're already close. Since we already know that from here to here is 200, because Dogbe, this is the line joining them. So I need to find here now, because it needs to touch this line joining both Manu and Dogbe. Okay, so from here to here is 200 plus this angle here. I can easily find this angle here. Let me call it theta. So to find theta, 3 is opposite, 5 is adjacent. So that's tan theta is equal to 3 over 5. So theta is going to be equal to tan inverse of 3 over 5. 3 over 5 is 0.6. So let's find that. Tan inverse of 0.6 is going to be 30.96. So this is equal to 30.96. Okay, so that means the bearing is going to be equal to 200, then plus, this small angle that makes it touch this line joining them. So plus 30.96, and that is going to give us 230.96. And since we are asked to find it to the nearest degree, the answer is 231 degrees. So this makes it the answer to that question. As you can see, life is beautiful, right? Okay, so we go again to the last one. Yeah. This one says that, permit me, I didn't really arrange these questions. In a town, Chief X resides 60 meters away, on a bearing of 57 degrees from the palace P. So I'm going to draw the bearing from P. While Chief Y resides on a bearing of 150 centimeter from the same palace P. Okay, the residents X and Y are 180 meters apart. Okay, and calculate illustrate the information in the diagram. Okay, let's start with this. We are both of them. I'm supposed to draw a bearing from P. The first one is 57 degrees. So I'm going to have P. This is this. 57 degrees means here from the north. This is where 57 degrees is. So I'm going to write 57 degrees here, and to this is P. The first one we read was 60 meter away. That's X. So this is X, and the distance is 60 meters, right? Then the second one says that the next statement is that Y resides on a bearing of 150 degrees from the same palace. So the next one, 150 degrees is somewhere here. It's somewhere here. So we are going to draw it. We don't know where to stop, so but let's 150. Now if here is 57, from here to here is 150. It means that the rest will be 150 minus 57. I think that is going to give us 93. So makes here 93, right? You should know how to, calculate your angles. And let's continue. We don't know where to place Y. Any distance for Y. While Chief Y resides on a bearing of this from the palace P, the residents of X and Y are 180 meters apart. So that means it has to be a straight line between X and Y, So that means let me draw this as a straight line. They are supposed to meet somewhere. Good. So this is exactly what we have. This is where Y is, because we are told that X and Y is 180 meters apart. Now we can answer. Let's see. The first one says, illustrate the information in the diagram. We've done that. And correct to three significant figures. Calculate the bearing of X from Y and the distance between P and Y. Okay, let's see the bearing of X from Y. Okay. Now this is quite interesting. First of all, the bearing of X from Y means from the north of Y. You keep going, you keep going, you keep going until you get to the bearing of X from Y. We don't need to calculate that. That's not necessary, because it's obviously 360. From Y, if I go from the north of Y to the line joining both of them, it is 360. So the answer is 360 degrees for the first one. Interesting, right? Then the other one says the distance between P and Y. The distance between P and Y is here. Let me call it A. And this is supposed to be quite difficult, but we can also make it quite easy. Since this is a straight line and here is 57 degrees, alternate angle here will also be 57 degrees. So that means A is facing the angle 57 degrees, right? So I can use cosine rule. I can say A squared is equal to 60 squared plus 180 squared minus 2 times 60 times 180 cos 57, because A is facing the angle 57. Remember, according to cosine rule, A squared is equal to B squared plus C squared minus 2BC cos, theta. So that's why we have here. So this will give us 3,600 plus 180 squared is 32,400. So this is 32,400 minus 2 times 60 times 180. 2 times 60 times 180 is 21,600. 21,600, then times cos 57. Cos 57 is 0.545. Okay, so I will just calculate all of this directly. Okay, let's see. This is 36,000, right? minus 21,200, 21,600 times 0.545. Okay, so 36,000 minus 21,600 times 0.545. So this is going to give us 24,228. Okay, so if a squared is 24,228, that means a is going to be square root of 24,228. So that becomes square root of 24,228 will give me 155.65. So this is 155.6. So the answer is 155.65 kilo. Okay, this is meters. And the question says we should leave our answer in three significant figures. So to three significant figures, 1, 2, 3 should just be 155 meters. So that's the answer to that question. Yeah, this is quite interesting. Okay, I promise to solve more questions here because there are still more grounds to cover on bearing and distance. Okay, for now I'm going to stop here. Thank you very much. See you in my next video.